Hello, welcome back to Chatters DIY. What we're making today then? Well, you should already know that because you clicked on the video. Children's play area, play deck, treehouse, whatever you want to call it. It's been called many things. It looks really good so far. I'm really enjoying this one. It was originally intended to be made in spring so that the kids could play on it all through the summer, but then financial reasons stopped me from buying the wood, and then the rain came, and God, what a summer we've had for rain. I don't really think the kids have missed out on a fat lot, to be honest. But the delay did help me source the wood for nearly for free. I've ended up spending only £15 on wood, and when you see the project, you'll see how impressive that is. I was given the post by my mum's next door neighbour, and I had a really good find by Screwfix in Wolverhampton the other day. Some really large broken down pallets, and there was just big pieces of 4x2 in there and whatever, and they've been perfect for the job. I'll go into that a little bit more detail later. As I said, I'm really enjoying this one. I really hope you enjoy it. Let's see what you think, shall we? Right, so the design, when I say that it was scribbled on a scrap bit of paper, you can see that it was just that. This was done after I'd found the wood that was going to be used to form the deck. That helped me then determine the dimensions, which I'll go into a little bit more later on when we nip outside. Each one of these places where the post meets a joist, there is a rebate either cut into a 4x4 post, which is in this case this post here. Whereas this one, for example, was actually made up of two 4x2s sandwiched together with glue and screws. The rebate in the posts was also done for this lower section, but obviously it was cut into this side of the post rather than that one, so that the joist could protrude in the right direction. And then there's another one, that rebate is shared with the end of this joist, and also one that goes across there just to add a little bit more stability. So here's the 4x4, an offcut that I've used. Obviously I was given 4x4s and 4x2s, so it was kind of predetermined the way that I had to do things. But if you haven't got a crosscut sled on a table saw like I've been using, then there is a much better way of doing this with the 4x2s on its own. It makes less mess, and it's actually a little bit easier, far less time involved. On the 4x4 I've just struck a line of where I want the bottom of the joist to come, put my piece of wood on, and then use that as a guide to mark out the other side. Then you've got your piece there in the middle that you can cut out as a rebate. The alternative to that, if you're using 4x2s, you get your 4x2 in. This piece is going to have to be the length of your post in total. Mark out again the line where you want the bottom of the joist to come. Then you come in with your other piece of 4x2 which you've cut off at that length, and you put it in. You glue the two surfaces together and screw through the two pieces. Obviously make sure that that's square. Same technique now, you just put in your piece of wood, strike your second line, measure out how far you want that piece to come. Once you've cut it, do the same again, glue and screw, and then when the screws are in, you remove your joist, and there's your pre-made, custom made post with rebate already set. Hand cut these if you need to. You can just need a normal saw and a bunch of screws and some wood glue. It's nice and easy, far less work. So here you can see that I've made the multiple cross cuts, and the one thing you do have to consider is the depth of the cut to make sure that this is an offcut from the joist that it's going to be attaching to. Obviously the depth of the cut has to match the thickness, and then all you do is you go ahead and break out those wafers, and obviously because it's a corner post I've took it off this edge and that edge, and now this will fit on the 2 joists. Now, being careful to make sure that you cut out the same 2 sides. I've now got to cut out the top part of that post for the handrail to go, and it's just got to match, so I haven't had to adjust the height of the blade to keep it the same. I'm doing this one, and then I'm doing another post to match as well. So once all the posts are cut to size and all your rebates are done, then you can start to think about putting it all together. Here I've obviously made the frame for the deck, just to mark out where the holes need to be dug. After that, I attach the deck to the posts, and then you can sort of mess around then with the levels of the bottom of the holes, just to make sure everything's as straight as it should be. So the other joint that I'm using on this project is a half lap joint. It's for a 90-degree turn. The half lap joint still uses rebates being cut into the wood, but they have to be exactly halfway through, and you have to have 2 of the same. This can be used to join 2 pieces together in a straight line, or, as I said, as a 90-degree turn. As long as the cuts are accurate, they'll do a good job. It's a very strong joint. They have to be exactly halfway through though, so that when you put the 2 together they equal the same width. So this is the point I'm at the moment. I'll just walk you through some of the construction and design ideas. This joint here, look, this joist is rebated into the post, same as the posts for the balcony in 2 directions, that one. Same at the top with the handrail. The dimensions of the decks were determined by the length of the joists that I got. They were 7-foot joists, so this end joist is 3.5 foot, so that I could get 2 lengths out of that, which worked well. When these side ones were put on then, that meant that the overall width of the deck was less than 4 feet, which is ideal because deck boards, which will be used as the flooring along there instead of these temporary pallet boards, they come in 1.2 metre or 4 foot increments, so you can get it in 2.4, 3.6, 4.8 metre lengths. Being just under 1.2 metres means that you get not very much wastage out of each board that you buy. The roof, the outside of the felt, has had these feather edged pieces put on. The inside, that's the lap joint, the half lap joint that I was talking about. That's actually glued. That's the only place where there's any glue in there, and then they're also screwed from the other side as well. Bird-mouthed onto the top of the posts. It's all pretty simple, and depending on what design you've got in mind for your own garden, if you are going to replicate it, these techniques can be easily adapted to different sizes and different shapes that you've got in mind. Right, so unfortunately I've been let down this morning. I've gone a 40-mile round trip to go and get some deck boards from Telford, and they weren't as advertised, so I knocked it on the head. Went for plan B instead. Didn't want the journey to be wasted, so I popped into TFM's Little plug for them there, quality shop. Got these Yorkie boards instead. Now these are the same size as the deck boards. They're not quite as smooth, so they're going to require some sanding out, but the flip side, they're £4.63 for a 4.8 metre length, which is an absolute bargain. Bonus. So I've carried the Yorkie boards down the garden, set up a temporary cutting station, clamped my mitre saw down onto the deck and put a stop block at the end, so I only have to measure it once. Just got about 30 to 40 boards to cut. I'm going to double check that just before, as we get to the end of the cuts, and just make sure that I'm not cutting boards that I don't need to. The more that I can salvage and keep for maybe another part of the project, then the better. I've then rounded off all the boards with the roundover bit in the router and sanded them all down with the help of Jack and gave them a good paint. And hey presto, the flooring's done, and I had enough boards left over to clad the front of the vertical areas where the kids are climbing up, and they can use them then as a ladder. So following yet another delay in finishing the project over the winter time, there is a couple of things that I haven't filmed. I've added some more Yorkie boards as handrails. Luckily I had just enough left over, so they go all the way around. And then on the sides I've used some pallet boards, which I've rounded off using the router on both this side and that side, so it's a completely rounded edge, and if it's handled they ain't going to get no splinters. It's all been sanded down nicely, and the intention from the very beginning was that I wanted to have at least one way up onto the deck, and then also have a secondary way off, so that if the kids are running around the garden they'd be able to climb up this section and then come across. And if they're being chased, what I intend to do is from about there have a fireman's pole. So I'm just waiting for scaffolding pole and the bracket for the top. Hopefully I should be able to position it so that it doesn't block this entrance to underneath, which was originally intended to be a bike storage, but I don't know whether it might just get utilised more as a den. We'll have to see about that one. That's a work in progress. The scaffolding pole is in, fireman's pole, concreted down into the ground. Spray painted it green to match the rest, along with that handle. That's actually a mobility handle that was in the house when we moved in from the previous occupant. And so finally I've finished it. I've even added some LEDs into the edges of the playing areas and down the areas where they can climb up. There's still a little bit of work to be done in the area around it. Obviously this fence here needs to be painted, because they replaced those panels just prior to the build, and then this panel here is going to get replaced, and then that will allow us then just to put the last few balustrades in, the pallet boards across that back bit. But in terms of what we can actually get done now, that's finished. I'm really chuffed. The kids are going to love it. So I'm sorry, that's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed watching that one. I should have a lot more videos coming out this year, fingers crossed. So if you like it, then please hit the subscribe button and remember to ring the bell for the notifications. You've been watching Chatters DIY. Just because I DIY doesn't mean I'm a wank.